PMO function. So what I am going to cover today is what is PMO, starting looking at individuals interested in working at PMO. What do I think are the qualities you need and what skills do you need? And what knowledge will you gain working in a PMO? And then how that can set you up for success if you want to move into project management. I'm going to talk a little bit about what is the difference about working in a PMO at project and program level versus portfolio level. And I'm going to finish on what is portfolio management. So I run a very small PMO at Pets at Home, and we work at portfolio level. And before that, I was a project manager, senior project manager, and I just thought it meant more complicated projects, and it didn't mean that. So I've had a real realization over the last 4 years about what the difference is. So I thought I'd share some of that with you. I'd like this to be interactive, so along the way I'm going to ask some questions, so please feel free to either jump in and we'll have a conversation or answer on the chat, but if there's something specific that you want me to cover, also please let me know on the chat. Christine will share it with me if I'm not paying attention, and I want to make this useful for everybody. So let's get going. What is PMO? Well, if you are looking in job descriptions, it can be a bit confusing because you get project management office, you get program management office, you get portfolio management office. Sometimes there's a little E in front of it and it's an enterprise portfolio management office. If you look at House of PMO, sometimes it sounds fancy and they call it Centre of Excellence. And I've also seen in job descriptions transformation office. So it can be a little bit confusing what it actually means. But if I look at, I've sort of used the APM definition. The aim of the PMO is to promote best practice and ensure efficient and effective project, programme and portfolio management. The purpose of the PMO is to provide guidance and support and control to make sure that projects are managed in a consistent and effective way, and to help improve the overall delivery process. And then where it varies is on the responsibilities depending on the level that you work at. So it could include providing guidance on the methodologies, it could include maintaining standards and templates, it could include allocating resources and managing them, risk management at different levels, and it could also even involve making sure that your projects are aligned to your strategic objectives and making sure that you're all contributing towards that. So if we start at an individual level, what are skills and qualities that are needed? Well, from an individual level, I think it helps if you are highly organised and can work in a busy environment. I think it helps if you are reliable and consistent. You want to get a reputation that you are safe pair of hands and that people can trust you with stuff. It helps if you are curious and interested in learning more, because as you all know, working in change, projects change, the teams change, the company processes change. In Pets at Home, we have a phrase saying we don't like problem admirers. We don't want anybody that's going to sit back and go, that over there is not working. What we want is people with a continuous improvement mindset in PMO that go, that's a problem. What can we do to improve it? PMO, a good skill that you have to develop is having difficult conversations, because you are also the conscience of the project. You might need to give difficult feedback, or give feedback regarding, the quality of the risk description is not good enough. You might need to go back and say, are you really sure that this is a green project? Because when I'm reading everything else about your status, this feels like it should be reported as amber. And you really need to be nosy. You really need to like to know what's going on. In terms of skills, there isn't anything specialist. You need your basic office skills. It really helps if you're good at meeting facilitation, and it helps if you're just good at organising in general. But when I think about where the industry is going and we look at the thought leadership, sorry, front door just went, dogs kicked off. We've got, tech's coming, AI's coming, everybody's wanting data-driven organisations. So what I'm looking for in my team now is people with a data mindset, I want people that are also not scared to work with tech. And so when I talk about data, I'm going to go on to the next slide. Your insights is information plus experience to provide insights about things that weren't obvious before. And in using tech, you can use it to make life easier for your project teams. So, for example, in my team at the moment, we've got an ambition of email approval is dead. We want to use Power Automate, Power Workflows to do a standard way of approving things. So just to touch on data a bit more to help everybody understand, just let me sort the dog out. I don't know what's going on. Just 2 seconds, sorry. Husband's on it, sorry. Right, so data. You've got data at the bottom, which is just facts. You've got information, which is facts with contexts. You've got knowledge, which could be combining data sets. And then you've got wisdom, which is applying that knowledge. So I'm going to give you an example.
You're on mute, Anna. You've gone on mute.
Right, let me just go back. Sorry, it's because the dog is absolutely going berserk. Worst timing, somebody's come to collect a parcel from the house. Right, so as an example, data is a string of numbers. If I now tell you it's Mary's birthday, that's information because I've got a data set in context. That's looking back. If I now go, actually, 10th of December's in 4 weeks and I know Mary likes flowers, that's knowledge. How do I apply that knowledge? I order the flowers in advance, and I also know she works on a Tuesday from home, so I get them sent to home. That's wisdom. And that's the sort of stuff that PMO can do. So if I put it in a PMO context, you've got a risk description. We've got the context of what project it relates to, the probability, the impact, the risk. Now I realise the risk date is while the owner of the risk is on holiday. So the wisdom means I can go to the project manager and the risk owner and go, this risk is likely to become an issue while you're on holiday. What do we do to manage that going forward? So that's insight, and that's what PMO can sort of apply. Quickly, what is knowledge that you gain working in program and project office? All the things that project managers would also do, but looking at it from a different way, because a lot of the times the PMO is either helping set the standards, that's the centre of excellence. So what are the processes, what are the templates you're using, or you could be running some of the processes. And in reality, you've got the theory versus reality. What's it like in your organisation? And that's the difference. And one thing you'll know with PMO, I haven't mentioned projects. I've not mentioned anything about knowing what the projects are delivering here, because if you're doing your job, this is the knowledge that you need to apply in every situation. You don't need to know about the projects, but if you do know about the projects, it will help you learn your job better or do your job better. And just quickly to finish touching on an individual level, having a good understanding of how projects work, having a good understanding of the governance for them, having a chance to be part of the project delivery itself, all set you up for success if you're looking to move into a different role in change, including project management. But it also gives you an opportunity to look at other roles that are related to project delivery. So you've got business analysis, you've got business change, and you might like the idea of project delivery, but once you've actually been part of a project, you might go, oh, project management's not for me, but you've learned all of these other things as well. But I just wanted to show that if you learn all these skills in PMO, you would learn how to do planning. You would learn different methodologies. You would learn about change control. You would learn about finance. You would learn about benefits management. You would learn about risk management. You'd learn about stakeholder management, and you learn about reporting. So actually, in working in PMO, it gives you the vocabulary, it gives you experience to set you up for success moving into project management if that's what you want. So what I would like to just move on to then is what it's like to work at different levels. Ellie, I can see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just really quick question.
Yeah.
In the PMO function at Pets at Home, do you run the planning within product and tech organization, or is that done by another team when you think of like the scope of the PMO function?
So on an annual level, how we work is we have an enterprise architecture function. They liaise with our different business units because we've got vets, we've got pets, got our groom rooms, and we've got our distribution support office functions. So they develop the roadmaps over multiple years. And then on an annual basis, they look at what's the next thing that we need to start working on to step change towards those strategic objectives that might be 3-year, 5-year goals. So we're in that process at the minute doing the business planning. So we now have a number of line items. So then we have a head of portfolio planning. She's now shaping those pieces of work to sort of go, what does this sort of name look like? What does that mean? And then where PMO come in is we look at the wider landscape. So we will look at, from a resourcing perspective, what capacity do we have? What we've got projects that are in flight now that will roll over. When will that free stuff up? We'll already be assessing, do we actually need to look at contract resource? But we'll be looking at other constraints. We have a change freeze over Easter. We have a change freeze over Christmas. We know that everybody's on holiday over the summer. So we'll be looking at the timing of starting work. And then we'll be looking at things like what are the other changes that are going on? So is there something that's going to be happening, say, in our distribution centre that would mean that we would not deliver more change into that space during that period? So that's where PMO, that insight, because we've got the whole of the landscape view, we help shape, I would say, the takeoff view, looking at resources, looking at other things going on in the context, things like that. Christine, on mute.
Yeah. On a similar vein, I was wondering whether you actually did anything with benefit realisation, because I know that's always a tricky one for organisations.
So at the moment, we've just started looking at benefits this year. So a little bit further on in the presentation, I've got covered what are the 6 things, according to Gartner, that make up effective portfolio management. And benefits management is one of them. Honestly, it's not ever been a priority for Pets at Home to actually evidence that we've realised the value that we said we would. But it's the right thing to do. So for the first time this year, we've introduced a benefits framework in our change function. We are tracking our changes so that we can look at, have we realised the benefit that we said we would? An interesting challenge for us is a lot of the stuff we deliver is enabling tech for another function to go and increase sales because they may have unlocked a new sales channel or things like that. But by building the foundation on the time frame, directly contributes towards that next, I guess, incremental change that will deliver the benefit that we're looking for. Any other questions before I move on? No. Okay. So just to move on quickly then from what's the difference between project and programme and portfolio. Projects and programmes deliver specific outcomes, whereas portfolio management prioritises the outcomes for delivery. So if you imagine at the start of the year, we've got a list of 20 things that you could go start them all at once, but we won't. We'll start them in the right sequence. What's going to deliver the biggest value, or it might be that's going to take the longest to deliver, so we'll do that. So it prioritises the outcomes. Projects and programmes are delivered by a temporary organisation. You stand up a project team, whereas portfolio management is done by an enduring team. It might not be a dedicated team, it might be a collection of individuals, but the notion is it's an ongoing activity. And projects and programmes finish, you know, they run for a finite time to deliver an outcome, whereas portfolio management is ongoing. You have to adjust even within the year because new priorities coming, you know, things get dropped, we have to pivot. So that's where portfolio management comes in. So at a very high level, projects and programmes are focused on doing the right things. delivering quality outcomes, doing things right, whereas portfolio management is about doing the right things. Are we allocating our budget, our resources, and all, are we focused on the right things, all contributing towards those objectives ultimately? And if we look at the PMO role at project and program level, you've got your framework that's like the conveyor belt, whatever that is, whether it's agile, waterfall, but you've got all your projects following through the framework. And at project and program level, you're working on that individual package or that collection of packages to deliver those outcomes.
Hello?
And
Oh, you're outside.
oh, I don't think that's for me, is it?
Ola, you might want to put yourself on mute.
So at a project or program level, the PMO is typically supporting a project manager, but they're normally affiliated back to some central function. Somebody's defining how you work. They are adding value, looking at those dependencies and constraints. They are helping with things, but your role will change because every time a project finishes, you'll be assigned to a new one. Whereas if you're working at portfolio level, you're actually looking at the actual conveyor belt. That's what you're working on. You're focused on, is that conveyor belt working effectively? So you're providing advice and guidance on the process. You're conducting the quality reviews. So what you're actually doing is you're actually looking at each of those parcels on it going, is that going to deliver the right quality? That's what your stage gates are. Looking, is the business case still valid? And you're helping with that control of work, that flow of work, a bit like you've got the smart motorways that have got, you slow things down to 40 miles an hour to keep things moving, and you might have the traffic lights onto the slip roads coming on. That's portfolio management, is making sure that the work is flowing and that you're not causing traffic jams. And that's looking at your resource availability and your budgets, but it's also then providing that information for that decision making. So for those people that do have PMO or work in PMO, what level do your PMOs operate in? I'd be interested to know in the chat. So if we look at the Pets at Home experience, we don't have any projects that have PMO at project level. We work at the portfolio level, and I moved into the role 4 years ago, and my boss said, let's try and apply the Gartner model of effective portfolio management. And there are 6 parts to it. So you've got, number 1, visibility of work and constraints. Have we got a clear view of what we need to do and when it needs to be done by? Customer-driven prioritization. Do we understand what are the priorities, or are we, have we got highest paid person's opinion projects going on that we need to kill? Adaptive resource allocation. We constantly need to look, have we got our resources applied and deployed correctly? Continuous execution of value. Do we have the processes to track that we are realizing the value? And do we have a standard way of informing our stakeholders that we are on track to deliver the value? Change-enabled culture. Do we have a way to manage change effectively from the people perspective? And do we have the appropriate feedback channels? And then, are we realizing the value? Can we measure it? So that was what we used as a starting